Well, Everton fans might be wondering this evening why Forest were deducted 2 points less than they were for breaching the financial rules. Bearing in mind, Forest overspent £15 million more than they did. Let's get some Everton's perspective on this. Ped Mcpartland from Toffee TV joins us now. Ped, very good evening. So, you get 6 points, they get 4. What is your reaction to that?
I think it's just shock amongst the fan base and a lot of frustration of how this has all been handled. And this is nothing against Nottingham Forest, by the way. You know, their fans speaking then, he was absolutely right. How is anyone supposed to compete in the Premier League against 6 teams who tried to leave the Premier League when we are handcuffed by these rules? You know, the Forest have come up. We've obviously struggled for the last few years. Obviously, we had money before PSR rules really took effect. And in the last few years, obviously due to COVID and obviously losing major sponsors due to an ongoing war, it's really, really hard. But obviously, going back to what's happened today, I think a lot of fans are scratching their heads because, you know, Forest have been given 4 points. Let's not forget, Everton were given 10 points and had to deal with that for the best part of 3 months. There was a lot of stress, obviously, in the fan base and at the football club. And it just doesn't seem fair that 3 different sets of commissions with 3 different sets of people with no fixed rules, no fixed tariffs, can just hand out these different points deductions. And it just leaves you wondering what exactly is going on, because if we went into it as a fair process and we all knew where we stood before it started, and we were told what we could get for breaching certain things, I think we'd be a little bit better with it. But to see someone who is obviously spent more money than we have 2 points less, it's really, really frustrating.
I'm sure it is, but the written submission is that, of course, Everton didn't comply with the rules, and then whereas Forest complied, Forest were up front straight away, and the feeling was that Everton weren't. That said, though, Ped, given that you are in the same boat as Forest, just explain what it's like when suddenly you've slipped down the table because you've got X many points taken off you.
It's really, really hard to understand. You've earned those points. You know, your team's gone out there, put the hard work in, and you know, you've done well for yourselves, and then to have them suddenly taken off you. Obviously, for us, we were beaten by Manchester United in the first game, which was a huge night, and obviously we were beaten comprehensively that night. But we went on and had a good little run in it. It did for a short period. It really did bring us all together. But I think as the season gets harder, as it did during December and January, you could see the confidence ebbing away, and almost that feeling of where we should be rather than where we are. And sometimes that's hard to factor together. Even now, when people are looking at Everton's situation and our fan base are talking about how many games we haven't won a game, you still look at it and go, well, if we did have the points, we'd be easily safe. We'd have 31 points. And you get those little conflicts amongst your own fan base about where you actually are, about where you should be. And it is really hard. There shouldn't be any points deduction anywhere in football for me. I simply don't get it. When I look at teams like Reading, and we've had seasons gone by with Derby County, people who just completely just getting punished again and again and again for situations they can't get out of. And it just seems really, really unfair. And I understand UEFA don't have these, and recently the president of the Liga came out and said they would never have these in their league. It's mind-boggling that you are being punished for being poorer than other people, but just trying to compete. And these rules were brought in because they feared teams going bust. Teams aren't going to go bust. Teams in the Premier League are going to be okay. You know, Nottingham Forest have got a very, very, wealthy owner. They're not going to go bust. So at the moment, the only people that these rules help are the top 6, the 6 who tried to leave the Premier League, the teams who are competing year in and year out in the Champions League, who are bringing that money back with them. We can't compete with those teams, and the only way we can do it is by building new stadiums like we have, or just trying to bring in a little bit of talent that it's not gonna compete with those teams. By the way, it's just trying to stay in the Premier League. So the quicker something's done about this, the better.
Sure, and of course there's the possibility there might be even more points deducted. That said, what do you feel your chances are of actually staying in the Premier League this season?
It's on us. We've got games to win there. We've got 4 potential wins at home against teams around us. And if we win those games, we'll stay in the Premier League. It's as simple as that. You know, obviously there's a lot going on off the pitch at Everton with the takeover, which is frustratingly really, really slow as well. And we have had the points deduction, and we could have another points deduction. But if we win games of football, which was what we're supposed to do, then we'll be fine. So it's on us now. Forget all the excuses and forget what anyone else is doing. If Everton win games of football, they'll stay in the Premier League.
Absolutely. 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw. That's what football's about. Ped, Mcpartland, great to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you.